Hello everybody and welcome back to Blue Jay Acres. My name is Noelle. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today we are going to start Scratchmas. So we're going to do like Vlogmas, but it's going to be cooking from scratch every day for the next 24 days. I'm going to share some kind of cooking from scratch with you guys. So hopefully you enjoy this and give it a big thumbs up if you do. And hopefully all of you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We definitely did. But today we're going to go on and jump into it. It is already going on 3 o'clock. I've had a very busy day, but I have quite a bit of milk here that I need to use up. So I'm going to make some pudding for dessert tonight, and then we're going to make some dinner. So let's get started. Here is how we're going to make this pudding. All right, so to start the pudding, we're going to start off with 3/4 cup of sugar. 3 tablespoons of flour, and we're going to whisk this all together. Okay, then we're going to stir in. I have 3 cups of milk here. I'm just going to stir that in and get that incorporated. And then we're going to cook this over a medium heat. Dump it on a medium heat. While that's cooking, I'm going to take 4 eggs and get the yolks out, separate the yolks. Then I'm just going to beat my egg yolks here so they're ready. So we are going to cook this until it starts to get thickened and bubbly, and then we're going to cook it, continue cooking it for another 2 minutes after that. So I'll come right back when this is getting there, closer to thicker and bubbly. Alright, so this is starting to get bubbly and get a little thicker, so now I'm going to want to constantly stir this so that the milk doesn't burn on the bottom. And we're going to cook this for about 2 minutes. And then we're going to remove it from heat. And I'll show you what we're going to do then next. Alright, so now it's been 2 minutes. So I'm going to remove this from the heat. And then I'm going to take my egg yolks here. And I'm going to add a little bit of this pudding mixture to my egg yolks. Stir it. If you just dump your eggs in, then you're going to get like scrambled eggs. It's called tempering the eggs. I'm going to add some more. One more time should do it. Okay, now I'm going to return this to the heat. And I'm going to add in the egg yolk mixture. Try and make that where you guys can see that. And we're going to bring this back up to a low, gentle boil. And we're going to let this go for another 2 minutes. It's getting nice and thick. Alright, so this has been 2 minutes. Now I'm going to pull that off the heat again. And we're gonna add a little bit of vanilla and about a tablespoon of butter. And we're just gonna stir that in, let that get nice and melted in there. And then the pudding is done. This just needs to cool off, and we'll put it in the fridge after it cools some. And that's it. Vanilla pudding is done. I almost forgot to add just a little sprinkle or pinch of salt when you're doing the butter and the vanilla. It makes a big difference. Okay, so tonight for dinner we're gonna have chicken pot pie. So we're gonna go on and make that. I've got out the vegetables ready to go. I just cooked up a couple chicken breasts. And we need to make the crust. Now I'm just going to do a top crust. I'm not gonna do a bottom crust. If you want to, just double the crust recipe and make a bottom crust and a top crust. But it just kind of cuts down on the bread a little bit that way by doing just a top crust. Okay, I'm gonna start with about 1 1/4 cup of flour. I'm gonna add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Then I got between 1/3 and 1/2 cup of butter here. And I'm just going to cut this up into here. And I'm just going to cut the butter in with this little pastry cutter. If you don't have one of these, you can do it with your hands. And I'll show you that as well. Just try not to work it too hard. You just kind of break it up. It's the same way I do it with biscuits. I just do it in my hands. The pie crust is the same. You just want to break it up and get the flour coated in it. Both ways work. You just want the butter to stay cold, so you don't want to work it too much when you do it with your hands. And I want it to just be kind of crumbly and just cut up in here. Another thing you can always do is just grate your butter into it. I think that's more trouble than it's worth. I just usually do this or my hands. And in biscuits, I always just do my hands. Then I'm going to add just like 3 to 4 tablespoons of ice water. Enough so that the dough or the crust will come together. Almost enough. Just a little bit more. Right, then I'm going to just set that back. And then here I'm just going to, on my mat, if you're doing a bottom crust, you're going to want to spray down your pie plate. Since I'm not doing a bottom crust, I'm not worried about spraying it down. I'm just going to put some flour down. Also flour my rolling pin. And then I'm just gonna dump my crust like this. And I'm just gonna form this into a nice little ball real quick. The less you handle it, the flakier your pie crust will be. The chewier it is, the more you handle it. And I'm just gonna roll it out so it's ready to go on my pie. And I would say that's big enough. I think that's big enough. So now I'm just gonna set this pie crust aside so we can get the vegetables and the pot pie filling ready. Alright, so now you can pick whatever vegetables you like to put in your chicken pot pie. I personally would do broccoli. I would do mushrooms. My family's not big on that. So we're keeping ours a little bit more basic. However, my family does love asparagus. So I'm going to add asparagus instead of broccoli. I know you guys have told me many times to cut my onion the other way. This is just the way I like to do it. I've done it a long time like this. That's just how I like to do it. So I'm gonna just cut up an onion and some carrots, some celery, some potatoes, but first I'm going to do those onions and celery and carrots because they're going to stay by each other. I'm going to cook them at the same time. I guess that's what I should have said. Now, I know some of you are going to ask about, what about low carb? You guys, Ronnie was having such bad anxiety that just wasn't worth it. And she just wouldn't do it anymore. She said that she felt better cooking everything from scratch. And so, actually, the whole family kind of agreed to that everybody felt best that way. So that is the way we're doing it. And we won't be changing that again. That's just what we're sticking with and how we're going to do it. So you're going to have lots of cooking from scratch with Noelle. The other thing I'm adding is potatoes. Sweet potatoes would be good in this. You could do like a cranberry and turkey. That would be good. Type pot pie, like a leftover Thanksgiving, that would be good too. Except it's December the 1st and I don't have any leftover Thanksgiving stuff. Not now. So I also, like I said, I'm going to do potatoes. I'm just going to cut them really small. I think a sweet potato would be good. Charles is not a huge sweet potato fan, but we grew so many sweet potatoes. Alright, the other thing, like I said, that I'm going to add is asparagus. And then I'll go on and finish chopping all this up. And we will get over to the stove. And as far as asparagus goes, I'm just going to chop them in pieces like this. so that they're incorporated all throughout. Alright guys, I'm going to just finish up my veggies. Okay, I'm going to set my oven to 400. In this pan, I'm going to add some olive oil. And I'm going to add some butter. And we'll let that get melted. Okay, and now I'm just going to add all my vegetables because I'm just ready to get it in the oven. But otherwise, you could just do it separate so that everything could cook, you know, slower. Do your onions and carrots and celery and then move it. And then do your potatoes and your carrots, but I'm just going to kind of just do it all together. Then to this I'm going to add some pepper. I'm going to add some salt. Gonna add some thyme. Gonna add some sage. If you don't have all of that, you can just add poultry seasoning or whatever spices and seasonings you like. I think pot pies are fun. You can make them whenever you want. You can do beef, you can do chicken, you could do shrimp, you could do pork. You could do just veggies if you wanted. I've made many of veggie pot pies. Whatever you want. And you also don't have to do everything fresh. There are many times that I've used like leftover baked potatoes that we had, and just, you know, maybe leftover veggies you just already have sitting in the fridge that you cooked up the night before. That works well too. Already smells so good. I'm gonna go out and add some more butter in here. And then in this measuring cup here that looks awful, I know, I have a cup of milk and then 2 cups of a chicken bone broth. You could just use chicken broth if you want. You could use milk and chicken bouillon and water. You could just use the bouillon and water. However you want to do it, there's ways to definitely make it cheaper or to use what you have on hand. You could also use, I've used, when I didn't have any milk, condensed milk. You just mix it with water, equal parts water to condensed milk, and that makes a great substitute for milk in recipes. I use coconut milk, just anything, powdered milk, anything you have on hand. Or like I said, just water and a bouillon cube. And if you don't have the butter, you can just use oil. You can also do it with lard or with tallow. You just need a fat. Because that's going to help make our roux and our nice creamy veggie stuff here. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to sprinkle this with about a 1/3 cup of flour. And I just want to cook that in here with these veggies for a little bit, just because I want them to cook the flour taste of it away. You don't want a raw flour taste in your food. It does not taste enjoyable. Then I'm going to add our mixture. And you might need to add a little bit more milk or bouillon, water, whatever you need, liquid that you're using, if it gets too thick. But for right now, we'll just stir all this together. By cutting the potatoes really small, they're going to cook nice and fast in the oven when the pot pie goes into the oven. This meal is also a great way to stretch out your meat. So if you don't have a lot of leftovers and you're trying to make it leftover food, it's a great way to stretch it out. It's also a great way if you're just trying to keep it lower budget. I know money's tight for a lot of people right now, and you can get away with a lot less meat in something like a pot pie or a casserole. It's getting nice and thick. You want to just give a little taste to make sure that you don't need more salt or pepper or any kind of seasonings. And I'm just going to let this cook for a little bit in the broth here. Just for probably about 4 or 5 minutes. If you need to turn the heat down, you can turn the heat. Another way to cut money, if somebody was trying to make it less expensive, would be use just canned veggies. Or you can buy a bag of frozen mixed vegetables if you don't want to cut everything up. You can get those for very cheap at a Walmart or anywhere. I also wanted to share my opinion on cooking from scratch. Some people say it costs way more to cook from scratch, that you could easily buy like a ready-made pie crust. And that is true. And so that would be cheaper to just buy a pie crust than to buy all the ingredients to make a pie. So if the only thing you were going to make from scratch was a pie crust, then yes, that would be cheaper to just buy it. However, when you're cooking most everything from scratch, it saves you a ton of money because you don't have to go out and buy anything. And that ingredients that you use to buy to say make the pie crust, you can turn into biscuits and all kind of different stuff as well, just by having your basic needs, baking needs at home and cooking needs at home. So that is how I feel about cooking from scratch. If you do a ton of it, it saves you a lot of money. Minimal ingredients needed in your house. If you do, he's making faces at me in the background. If you do just 1 or 2 things because you're just trying to cook from scratch, then that is going to be more expensive. But I will tell you, either way you go, it tastes so much better if you really cook from scratch. It just, nothing compares. It's gotten to where we don't even like to go out to eat. We don't like to go to fast food. None of it tastes as good as just cooking from scratch. It just doesn't. So beware of that if you start cooking a lot from scratch like we are. It kind of ruins everybody else's food for you. Alright, let's get back to this. Alright, this is getting really thick now. So I'm going to go on and add the chicken. Again, this is just 2 chicken breasts that I just cooked up real quick. And I just cut them into small pieces so that they can be in here. And I did season the chicken, but just with some salt and pepper. Next, I'm gonna just pour this into my pie crust. This pan is very heavy. Let's see if I can do it without making a big mess. I did. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set this on top of a cookie sheet when I put it in my oven, so that way if it spills out anywhere, it's not going to get all over my oven. Even though my oven always has stuff all over it. Okay, sorry, Charles corrected me. I said I was putting it in my pie crust. I'm putting it in my pie pan, and I'm going to top it with my pie crust. If I can get it to not misbehave. Okay. I'm just cleaning up the edges. And then I'm just going to poke a few holes in the top, just for venting purposes. And then you could just dust this with a little bit of milk if you don't want to use a bunch of eggs. I have plenty of eggs right now. Our hens are still laying quite a bit. So I'm going to use an egg to just kind of brush on the top of this pie crust. Again, you could just use the milk. And that would brown it up nicely too. Our egg yolks are very yellow right now, or very orange, I guess you'd say. Charles is like, your vanilla pudding looks like mustard. And as you see, this is very yellow. They free range a lot because we don't have the gardens going right now. So they're able to just run free and don't have to stay in the run like they do when all the gardens are really nice and big. So their yolks get so much oranger. Alright, that's it. This is going to go into the oven. This is going to pop in the oven 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. Again, don't forget to put it on a cookie sheet. I'll see you guys in 15 minutes. Alright, here it is. Pot pie out of the oven. Of course, there was some spilling going on. Cooking over, but this looks so good. So I'm going to let it cool off a little bit, and then we'll do a taste test. Alright, Charles is going to do a taste test for you guys.
I don't know whether I should use a fork or a
pudding
spoon.
And the pot pie.
What do you think, fork or a spoon?
Either way you want. Everybody's just ready to eat. I got it out at least a half hour ago. It's just still hot. How'd it turn out?
Oh, that is good.
Thank you. And he's been out working with the animals, so it's getting cold.
That is really good.
I think I was going to try the pudding for you guys.
With my itsy bitsy spoon.
It's just a little dessert cup.
I have to take 2 bites because they're small.
So I'd say he loves it.
That is darn good pudding.
Good.
Alright, everybody can eat. It has my 2 thumbs up.
Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for tonight, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And I will have these recipes for you, either a link to the recipes, or I'm going to have them typed out for you down below. Charles is going to try and get them on the website so that I can get you guys a link. But we'll see what happens tonight. Alright, bye everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Happy Scratchmas, day 1. Bye everybody.